Here's what folks are saying about the local on Jacksboro Pike.
I like the eggs because it kind of got the yellow stuff in it that pops out.
Now tell me, how was your experience at the local?
Great.
Good food, good service, and you don't go away hungry.
But don't just take their word for it. Check it out for yourself under new ownership and management, the local on Jacksboro Pike.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you to JCTV this week. With me tonight is Mr. Larry Tannis, and he is with the Shepherd's Home. Are you the manager, director? What is kind of your title?
I am chairman of the board, or president of the board of directors.
Chairman, president of the board of directors for the Shepherd's Home. Mr. Tannis is going to be going in depth a little bit about what the Shepherd's Home is, what its mission is, what they're trying to accomplish, and then we are going to give you the information, of course, as you'll see on the screen, of who to contact, the information that you need, their website information, phone numbers, and that kind of information, and that will be on the screen as we go along. So, Mr. Tannis, how long have you been with the Shepherd's Home?
I am one of the co-founders of the Shepherd's Home. It began in 2009, and it really precipitated from the prison ministry. And there was a group of people who hearts were broken that when they ministered to people at the prison, and when they came out, they had no place to go. And so that really was the genesis of us having a place where we could take them from prison, bring them in to a structured program to help them get their lives turned around, as opposed to going to the environment that got them in prison in the first place.
Right. So it's a transitional place for people to transition from being in confinement, is a good word, to going back into, like you said, the society where they came from that made them the addict or the person that put them into the confinement to start with. So it's helping them to stay away from all the bad influences and things that got them there. I think it's a wonderful thing that the Shepherd's Home does. I myself am a big patriot of their thrift store in Woodson's Mall. My husband, he knows I'm a faithful weekly goer. I have to go see what they have. And at the same time, I know that anything I purchase, the proceeds are going toward this wonderful, wonderful cause. So now I'm just going to turn it over to you, Mr. Larry, and let you begin to tell people the mission of the Shepherd's Home and what they do.
Let me just share a little bit. I'm excited for the opportunity to do this. The Shepherd's Home is a safe, effective alternate to a life of addiction and suffering. It's a Christ-centered recovery center that exists to glorify God's name, to teach and encourage a close relationship with Jesus Christ, to seek and equip participants or residents with lifelong tools required to succeed and to sustain a long-term sobriety. We walk with residents as we hopefully equip them with the tools, the knowledge, and the skills necessary to start a new life. I shared with you about the prison. People come to us through the judicial drug court, and many of them apply directly to the home. So we try to partner with all the agencies here in Campbell County.
Right.
And let me just share with you that God is changing lives. This week I had the rare privilege I shouldn't say rare, the privilege of meeting with several of our female residents. My wife was teaching a class, and I joined her there. And to hear these women talk about how God is changing their lives, how it impacts their family, their marriage, their children, it is really very, very heartwarming. And then just this morning I had an opportunity at the Rotary Breakfast to meet and talk with several of our male residents in our male home. And to listen to what God is doing in their lives It's just heartwarming. It's heartwarming. God is transforming lives
Yes,
in the
He
name
is.
of Christ. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see it happen. I wish I had a tape recorder because I'd love to play it. But it's such an encouragement. And it's all about God, okay? We're just purveyors of His grace. He is the one that's transforming lives. He is the one that brings hope to them. And we are walking by them. Each one has some different needs.
Right.
But in general, we walk beside them as we train. We have almost 40 hours of curriculum per week. It's a very disciplined environment. We encourage them to get a job after about 4 weeks so they understand money management, the fact that you need employment in order to sustain a new lifestyle. And like I say, we partner with many with New Beginnings. We have several male residents working with New Beginnings. So it's a wonderful ministry that I always say God gives me a ringside seat to watch Him change lives.
Yes,
So
yes.
Here's what folks are saying about the local on Jacksboro Pike.
I like the eggs because it kind of got the yellow stuff in it that pops out.
Well, tell me, how was your experience at the local?
Great.
Good food, good service, and you don't go away hungry.
But don't just take their word for it. Check it out for yourself under new ownership and management, the local on Jacksboro Pike.
We have so many wonderful outlets for people to minister through. And I want to say this while we're on that subject. I'm sure that the Shepherd's Home would love anyone that wants to volunteer, to do things for projects or whatever that you work on. And I know that if you're a church and maybe you're looking for something for your youth group to be a part of, or maybe your ladies' Sunday school class or men's Sunday school class, I'm sure there's something there that you could be a part of. Am I right?
You are very right, and I hope many participate. Henry Blackaby, in his book, Experiencing God, said, find out where God is working and join Him.
Yes.
Let me tell you that God is working in the Shepherd's Home, and I want you to join them. And there's several ways to join. Let me start out, how does a resident join? How does a person come into the home? As I mentioned, we work through the Judicial Drug Court. We partner with them. We also have an application process. So people come with an application and an interview process. We currently have a waiting list, but we have 8 male residents in our men's home and about 8 female residents in our women's home. And as you already mentioned, we have a thrift store that provides a revenue source for the ministry. And it's God has blessed that too. He's blessed that. And by the way, we're opening a new thrift store in New Tazewell. So there's a work group going out there tomorrow, as a matter of fact, to help us get this building in shape.
And you know what that means, don't you? That means Sharon has 2 thrift stores to go to.
Well, I always say thrift stores are a little bit like antique stores because I don't worry about competition because our product is different.
That's right.
And our thrift store, as a little commercial, works on volume and turnover. We feel that if a product doesn't sell in 3 weeks, it's probably not going to sell. So our goal is to put 1,000 garments a day on the floor. And so it's always turning over. And we have sales so that at the end of 3 weeks, we rag it.
Right.
And so it's always different. And by the way, the cost of goods sold is 0.
That makes it even better.
That makes it better.
But that's such a wonderful way to help support the ministry that you're talking about of the Shepherd's Home for men and for women. And even getting to open a new thrift store, that's even, more revenue coming in. But I know that you also need donations and contributions, right?
Our current thrift store supports about 1/5 of our total costs.
Yeah.
So it's the people. Whether we talk about churches or Sunday school classes, it's people. It's people that have a heart and a compassion for those that have little hope without Christ. And you mentioned about addiction. Addiction impacts all of us.
Yes.
90% of the crime is due to addiction and supporting their habits. So we're all impacted, and there's so many families greatly impacted by it as well.
Right.
And
Yes.
it just, I can't believe when these people turn their lives around, it's amazing to see their relatives and friends that come to their graduation and are so impacted by it.
Right.
Now, you have a graduation coming up, don't you?
We have on Tuesday a graduation. We have 3 graduates, women graduates. It's going to be at New Horizon Church. It's going to be at 6:30, I believe, on next Tuesday. So,
That's
And-
wonderful.
as a matter of fact, I had a meeting with James Coffey at the harbor.
Yes.
And we have a couple of men who are involved in that ministry. And we asked him if we could hold a graduation at the harbor.
Great.
And so,
See, I love it. I love it when different churches can come together and share in the same ministry and do things together as the body of Christ, functioning as just one body. Because we're not many bodies, but we're all parts of one. And there's so many churches in our area. And to be able for 3 or 4 churches to come together in one single goal and to work, that is so wonderful. I love it.
let me tell you, we are a 501c3, so we're really independent. We have our own board of directors. It's a nonprofit. And we want to be the ministry of several churches. I want both First Baptist churches to say, our ministry is the Shepherd's Home. We're involved with it. We help with mentoring. We help with fundraising, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So the residents enter through an application process, and it can come from reference. We are not a detox facility. Our residents have to go through detox. They cannot have any violent criminal record. Most of them who get on drugs end up stealing and normally get arrested for supporting their
Right.
habit through stealing. But they have to be detoxed. We probably drug test them 2 or 3 times a week, so
Right.
they're
Well, that's just part of the process.
part of the process.
If someone is really wanting help, they're going to do the steps necessary to get that help. And I know that some addictions are so bad. And I've seen different, levels of addiction in people's lives. And there are some people that it seems like they do really good for a while and then they slide back. And I know that there's those instances that you have.
Yes, we do. We feel good about 60% of our graduates that we know of are still living a sober life.
Praise the Lord.
Here's what folks are saying about the local on Jacksboro Pike.
I like the eggs because it kind of got the yellow stuff in it that pops out.
Now tell me, how was your experience at the local?
Great.
Good food, good service, and you don't go away hungry.
But don't just take their word for it. Check it out for yourself under new ownership and management, the local on Jacksboro Pike.
temptations are huge for them. And it's difficult. I think of the women, for example, when they leave the home, if they have to get an apartment, pay for the utilities, and they don't have a lucrative job, it's very difficult for them, very difficult. And that's another way people can help, by the way. Let me share a few things
Just
that
go
people
right
can
ahead.
do. One, pray. Let me tell you, all these residents need prayer. If you need a list of names, we can give them to you. They'll just be a first name, but pray for them. Pray for our staff, because they represent Christ to these residents. You can volunteer your time and talents through several fundraising events that we meet on a monthly basis to organize and to plan. You can donate consumables to the home. They love a free dinner.
Yes.
Especially the men, they eat a lot. You can help them set up for independent living. These 3 graduates that we mentioned, for example, they need to furnish their apartment.
Yes.
They have nothing. So a mattress and a bed and an end table and a kitchen table, they need help getting started. You can serve as mentor. All of our residents have mentors. And the men is a little different than the women. The men have a choice of a church background. But we try to contract with the church that the mentor comes from that church, that they are responsible for picking that person up, integrating them into the church, and bringing them back. And to have a church home, we feel is critical for our graduates. They need to be networked into a church family, into a Christian community.
Yes.
Otherwise,
I totally agree.
You can join us in fundraising events, and I have a number I can give you there. Alicia organizes those. We have a secretary. First Baptist Jacksboro not only leases us the facility across the street for $1 a year for our women's home, but they allow us to set up an office in their church. So they have been very generous. Again, we are not a ministry of that church, but it's a church that got involved and wants to help.
Right.
Okay? You can donate clothing to our thrift store. I have a phone number here. It's 562-1118. And we have some bins located around the city. You can bring it to the store. You can call them and we will pick it up. We love yard sales and tell them that at the end of the yard sale, we will come over there and take everything you don't sell.
That's right.
You can contribute to the expenses of the home. It's not inexpensive to run a home like this. And if you just consider, we cover the home 24/7. And there are many times we need more than one because we transport them to work, we transport them to intensive outpatient, to AA, and another number of places, their jobs, etc. So it's a demanding business in a way to cover just the logistics. And so we can use volunteers for that as well. You mentioned our website. We just shortened the name because spelling the Shepherd's Home became difficult for some, like me. So it's just the first 3 letters, TSH, theshepherdsHome-tn.org. So it's a simple website, and you can go there and look at our needs. You can volunteer. You can enter that way.
Okay. And that will be, of course, you'll be seeing that on the screen throughout the program. And like you said, they can go to the website for more information. And I'm sure that they've got tabs of where you can go to donate even, make contributions online.
And our entrance process for people who want to come into the home, and it's handled primarily by our directors. Rhonda Madden is the director of our women's home, and Terry Bray with Greg Lay manage our men's home. So, and I have numbers, I'll leave them with you for them to call and arrange for an application and an interview process.
Mr. Tanis, Larry.
Please.
I have a question right there on that end. So the people that are wanting to go through your program, they have to be out of incarceration, right? Or coming out of incarceration?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily. That is one avenue, and that usually goes through the 8th Judicial Drug Court. Shane Sexton, Judge Shane Sexton, I'm sorry. You can, a prisoner can join the drug court. It's a 2-year program, and the first thing they do is they have to go into a transitional living home. So a lot of our residents would come out of jail, through the drug court, and referred to us.
Okay.
But there are many others who just have come to a point in their life where they realize the road they are on leads to destruction.
Right.
And they come to a point where they need to turn their life around. I talked to a resident today who said that they were on their way, I've talked to several, to commit suicide, and fell on their face and said, God help me, whatever it takes. I can't live this life.
Yes.
And they come to us by reference, reputation. And the key thing, in my opinion, is they have to come to a point where they are willing to commit 9 to 12 months of very structured living to learn the life skills, to overcome the spiral of addiction, and to have the tools necessary to live a productive life.
Right.
And that's our goal.
It's an awesome program. As we were talking earlier about, this is a ministry.
Yes, it is.
It's a nonprofit organization. Do you, by any chance, have the founder's name available? I know that that's probably just a spot on the moment question here. But I was, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that when we did our first feature on the Shepherd's Home, and that's been when it first opened, when they were first putting the merchandise in the store.
Mm-hmm.
And we did an interview with one of the ladies there, and I couldn't remember. I was, all day today, I kept thinking, and I meant to go online and try to look it up, but I was at work and I didn't have the resource to be able to do that. But to try to remember who was the founder of the Shepherd's Home, or what church that it originally came out of, or organization.
It really came out of First Baptist Jacksboro and their prison ministry.
Okay.
I am a co-founder of the organization, along with the pastor's wife, Morris. I'm sorry, I can't get her first name right now.
That's okay.
I had a blank in my mind. Where we worked about a year putting together a program, the structure, the rules, benchmarking several halfway homes. And this is in like 2008. We spent over a year trying to put together the foundation. We applied for our 501c3, our charter for the state of Tennessee, tax exempt requirements.
Right.
And so it was put together, and our first resident came in 2009. But there was probably a year of work ahead of that, just in organizing the ministry.
So it's been about almost going into its 10th year here,
Yes.
as being a ministry from that. And the reason that I asked you that was because there are churches here in our community that have a desire to reach out more into the community. And I just want them to know that if this church can birth this type of ministry than another church can.
They can, and we try very hard not to duplicate any ministry,
Right.
but to work with them.
Right.
And to doctor. For example, Springs of Life in Jellicoe, we meet with them on a monthly basis because this is a learning process.
Right.
And they experiment with some things and we experiment with some things. And by the way, we'll exchange residents. Sometimes it's easier for a resident to be outside the community they grew up in.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
seeing all their drug dealers and friends out on the street.
Right.
So we will exchange students. If one from Jellicoe is better suited here,
Right.
we will move
Well,
it.
I hadn't thought about that, but that would be a good alternative for them to be able to be taken out of the place where, like you said, all the influence
That's
is,
right.
and be away from that influence for while they are trying to transition. I think that most churches here in our area would love to partner with and contribute to, but some of them just don't know how to go about it. Or maybe they don't understand if that particular ministry, like let's say the Shepherd's Home or Celebrate Recovery or anything in that area there, how they would go about offering their church and, you know, as an outlet.
Here's what I would say. Come and see. Let us come to your place. We would love to come to any church. We'll bring a resident with us. We'll let them share their testimony. It could be a Sunday school class. It could be during the service, whatever you would like to do. And then find out what God is doing in the ministry. And there's so many ways to join. There really is so many ways to join. And like you said, we don't want to be independent. We want every church in this community, independent of the denomination, to feel that the Shepherd's Home is part of their ministry.
Right.
And we want to work together with them.
That's awesome. I think anything that we can do to make the body more united
Yes.
and working and functioning as a whole in your community, I think you'll see that reflected in your community over a period of time.
Here's what folks are saying about the local on Jacksboro Pike.
I like the eggs because it kind of got the yellow stuff in it that pops out.
Now tell me, how was your experience at the local?
Great.
Good food, good service, and you don't go away hungry.
But don't just take their word for it. Check it out for yourself under new ownership and management, the local on Jacksboro Pike.
So we're going to end the show, and Larry, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for letting me join you. It's my privilege.
Thank you.
Hello, this is David Grimm. Next Tuesday night, I will be with Sheriff Robbie Goins and Chief Deputy Aaron Evans to talk about safety in our schools. What are we doing to ensure our kids are safe? Be sure to join us next Tuesday night at 6 p.m. right here on WLAF TV 12 for this very informative program.